a demo for some folks, the Buck Rub up in New Hampshire. Do you know about the Buck Rub? Let us know in the comments. Any fans of the Buck Rub? A little pub up there in the northeast corner. It's pretty rad. Cool. Well, again, for you guys that are just joining, welcome to February's onX Offroads Masterclass. Let us know where you are coming in from. I see a lot of states, so that's cool. But I want to start seeing more rigs in the chat. What rig are you running? A couple housekeeping items for tonight. So you are here, we are here, and we're going to learn together. It's going to be amazing. A couple things. One, your audio and your video are turned off. So that means a couple things. One, neither Dana or I can hear you or see you, but we have a full dedicated Q&A team who is ready and armed to answer any of your questions that you might have. So if there's any questions that show up that arise during tonight's masterclass, please drop that into the Q&A. You see two little bubbles right next to the chat. Drop the questions into the Q&A. If you drop the questions into the chat, they might get lost, and that's just that. So we don't want those questions to go unanswered, so make sure to put those into the Q&A. We are going to get started here. So tonight on deck, you have myself, Andy Zielinski. I am the product marketing manager here at onX Offroad. So I get to talk about all things features. I get to talk about kind of what's up and coming, what we are excited about, and hopefully give you guys some education to feel confident about opening up that tool of yours and then getting out and going farther. My rig is a 95 Toyota Land Cruiser, affectionately named Larry. If you've been around anytime, I don't know how many. Also, raise your hand virtually. Put it in the chat if you're new. If this is your first masterclass, I want to know if this is your guys' first masterclass. And if it is, cool. Then okay, cool. We got a lot of first times. I'm so stoked because I talked about my Land Cruiser all the time. So this kind of gets boring if you've been around for a while and you're like, okay, shut up, we get it. But yeah, 95 Land Cruiser, I love it. So and then we got Dana. Dana, you want to say hi?
Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here. Yeah, Dana Haynes, technical cartographer, specifically for off-road, all things off-road. So help make the map look like what it does today. This is our Chevy Silverado family jammer. Been in some jams, got out some jams. We have a good time in it.
Cool. Thank you. All right. And then what we got cooking for tonight. So we are going to go over a bunch of features, a bunch of tools within the onX Offroad application. So a couple things. One, I would encourage you to either, if you're on desktop, please. Oh, I see someone has an 84 FJ60. So good. I won't get distracted too much, I promise. But we are going to be going over a bunch of features. So if you're on your laptop, please open up a separate browser and follow along because it's going to really help kind of orient everything that we are talking about. And so if you have questions, play around with it in real time, or grab your mobile device, if you haven't, download the app. If you have downloaded the app, open it up. What you'll see on desktop is in parity with what we have in the mobile app. And so just be playing around with it. I'm only going to stay on the desktop version simply because it's easier to share. And we've had some complaints in the past about it not showing up really well when we try to do the mobile. But if you do have your phone handy, get in there, pull it up, play around with it. And then Dana is going to talk to you about how to plan and kind of execute your next adventure that you want to go on. And then please stick around. We're going to try to keep this semi-brief, around 40 minutes or so. But there's a lot to cover. But if you stick around to the end, we've got a giveaway. So stick around to the end because you don't want to miss that. So without further ado, I'm going to try to do what is sort of impossible, and that is going to be switch tabs seamlessly. So bear with me. Dana, can you see my map? Cool.
We're good.
All right, so we are going to get into the feature portion of tonight's episode. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply kind of walk you through all of the features that are on this map, and then hopefully give you some kind of context of how or why you would want to use the feature going forward. So first things first, you see that there is the entire map right here. I am going to simply zoom in around my area, which is North Idaho. You're going to see a lot of waypoints. Nothing on my screen is precious. I don't have any gold mines or secret trail runs that I have here marked, but it's just simply an easy point of reference for me. Okay, so as you can see up here in the top right, where my cursor is, there is what we call an activity tab. That activity tab, you simply tap on it. You can see it says dirt right now. You tap on that activity tab and you have a whole card that kind of expands right in front of you. And what this allows is for you to start kind of identifying what it is you want to look for on the map. So as you can see, we have a trail type right here, and the trail type kind of segment of this card is for you to go in and select what kind of trails it is you want to run. So let's say you're running a dirt bike, simply hit single track. That's going to populate all of the different single tracks in the area. If you're running a side-by-side or ATV, UTV, you can go ahead and click the 50-inch trails. And each time that you click a new one, it's basically going to build on top of each other. So you can see the map starts to begin to populate with more and more trails. And then full width roads. Wow, now the map really is coming to life. So you can go ahead, select all of them like that, or you can simply select the single one that you want, depending on what type of rig you are typically running and what type of terrain that you want to get after. Secondly, you're going to see here, I'm going to go ahead and collapse that down. You're going to see the map layer window. So the map layer window is going to give you visibility into, actually, I want to close this out real quick. It's going to give you visibility into different map layers that are available to you. And this is not, just to be clear, and again, make sure you're putting your questions into the Q&A. But this is where private land information and active wildfire layers, you're going to be able to see this depending on your membership tier, which I'm going to get into later in the masterclass. But private lands are just, it's a super important tool. So as you can see, I'm toggling back and forth, and there are little red boundaries. If you can see that, okay, there are little red boundaries that are basically designating where private boundaries are. And if I toggle that off, that disappears. And for where I'm at in my region, there's a lot of trails that actually cuts through private parcel that you're allowed to pass through, but you're not allowed to stay on that private land. So private land is really important just to have turned on. Again, depending on your membership level, I will get to that later. And then active wildfire layer. And this is going to tell you basically where a fire is. You'll see a fire icon. And then the status of that fire, the perimeter, if they've established a perimeter, and so forth. So you'll be able to see that as you have the active wildfire layer toggled on. And then you can start filtering by technical rating or the total time, estimated time of your duration out on the trail. And then if you are actually, I also would love if you drop in the chat, is anyone here particularly interested in snowmobiling, or you have an affinity for rip around on sleds? We would love to know, because we actually also have a whole activity type for snowmobiling. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but effectively with snow, a few things that you're going to see is the trails are going to populate with, I see a few dirt only. And then some are stoked on some sleds. Cool. So you're going to see that the map then transitions with these purple trails. And these purple trails are letting you know that these are snow sled trails. And it's really cool and important to know that, like, all right, some of these trails may be rideable for just my full size truck that I want to get out there, but actually in the wintertime, it looks much different. And then as I zoom in, especially up here in North Idaho and with the mountain range that we have right here, I'm gonna really want to make sure that I have a few layers turned on, especially in the transition times of having avalanche forecast turned on as well as slope angle. So you're going to be able to see right up here in the top right-hand section, the slope angle and slope aspect is just simply going to give you a gradient view of the terrain that you are climbing up or descending down. So it's really important for you just to, like, as you're orienting yourself on the map, to make sure you get familiar with these tools to be able to understand, am I going up a grade that, like, I probably should consider a different point of entry, or is this just fine? And then make sure to map that against avalanche forecast to make sure you're not getting yourself in a situation where you find yourself under a shelf or a dangerous, precarious situation. Also, anyone who is in the West, I actually want to just kind of call out, since because we are on snow, and I apologize. So I'm sorry. As I zoom in, you're seeing actually the slope aspect start to take color. So you're now starting to see the different gradients show up on the map. And this is just telling you kind of what the different angles and aspect ratios are looking like. Again, super important. But one thing that I wanted to hit on for anyone who is in the West, and what I mean by West is effectively the mountain West, we are pulling in information from SNOTEL sites. So the snowflake icon right here where it says sunset, that's a SNOTEL station. And we are able to pull in information around last reported snow accumulation, the snow density, the relative snow depth, and then the temperature in that area. And then it's going to give you a date range of what that kind of that data set is looking like. So if you're interested in a certain area and you're curious what the snowpack is looking like, if they've gotten more snow recently, or if it's just simply been dry as it's been all winter long, it feels like, SNOTEL is a really great tool to make sure that you're staying up to date with what the trends are regarding this fickle snow that we have. So I'm going to go back to dirt and I'm going to close out of this activity tab. And now I'm going to move over to kind of this whole toolbar. So this whole toolbar is super important because it's basically going to give you everything you need to know to really, like, plan your adventures. So I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. I'm going to go back and I'm going to toggle on full width roads. And then I'm going to hit the Discover tab right here. Sorry, I don't mean to go too fast, but I'm going to hit this Discover tab right here with this truck that's kind of leaning on this berm. I'm going to click that. And now this is going to pull up all of the guided trails that are around this area. And so if I'm in a new area, and Dana will get into this a little bit more later on. Yeah, looks like I live close to someone. Say what's up next time you see me out on the trails. But if you're in a new area and you're curious about what trails are around, hit the Discover tab and then just peruse all of the different trails here and have some fun playing around and seeing, like, all right, like maybe like Lake Elsie. I want to see what's up with Lake Elsie. I'm going to click on that. It's going to give me an overview. And so one thing to know, these guided trails, I just want to make sure this part's very clear. Guided trails are actually trails that have been ran by basically a hired hand from onX. They are a trusted group of individuals that go out. they're running the trail, they're trying to understand trail difficulty, they're mapping out all of the trail description. So that way we can feed that information to the off-road community and make sure that you guys have as much real-time information as possible, so you're not getting yourself in a situation that might be a little precarious or unknown to you. But also, they're assigning trail difficulty ratings, which is also really, really helpful, especially if you're in a new area and you're trying to decide, like, all right, like, is this trail going to be something that my rig is capable of handling? So we're here at Lake Elsie. You're going to get an overview right here, which is basically going to tell you everything you need to know from trail report, which I'm going to get into in 1 second. It's going to give you the distance. So depending on like what the type of route this looks like it's a point to point. So end to end, expect this to be an 8-mile trek. The high and low point. So it looks like we're starting up high and we're descending just a little bit, which is good to know. The difficulty and difficulty rating. So it's assigned green. So green means it's easy. And the difficulty rating is a 3 out of 10. So it's probably a fire road. As you can see, it's designated fire road status. So easy, probably pretty smooth. This is something that you take the family out and go explore. And then you have the accessible by right type. And this is really nice because if you're in a situation where you might have multiple rigs, so you're out camping or hauling a dirt bike on the back of your full-size rig, and you want to know, like, all right, like I want to hit some full-size trails, but I also want to make sure that there's some trails around me that I can hit with my dirt bike. You have all of that information right there. The trail guides will write us a description based off of their experience of the trail, and then provide some photos of their trip. So beautiful lake, something that would be fun to take the family out to. Doesn't look like there's a ton of actual photos of the trail itself, and sometimes that's the case. Other times you're going to get a lot of photos of like the trail, obstacles on the trail, which is always good to have. And then you're going to have elevation, gain, loss, how to get there, some side trips, other activities. This is like a guidebook of sorts. So it's just really like extra information that's nice to have. I'm going to scroll back up to trail reports here. So trail reports, I'm asking everyone here, 513, 515, depending on the second, like over 500 of you, please use this feature, the trail report feature. Okay. Basically what this is an opportunity to let everyone know in the community what the status of that trail is. So if you go to Lake Elsie, I can see right here, there has not been a trail report added. So I don't know what the condition of the trail is. So I'm going to go in and let's just pretend that I went and I ran this trail yesterday, took my wife out on a Valentine's date around the lake. And all right, so I'm going to hit February 14th. Don't tell my boss, but I skipped out on a couple of meetings and I did a quick midday run. So I'm hitting 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. My vehicle, so I'm not gonna do that, but you can pull up a vehicle from my garage. You can see that Larry, the Land Cruiser, is in there, but no. Let's go back. Sorry about that. Select your vehicle from my garage, and then if you don't have a vehicle in my garage, you can also select different vehicle options, 4x4, and then the trail status. So it's been pretty dry up here, but it's snowing right now. So I'm going to pretend like yesterday it was clear. So I'm going to go in, it was open. But you know what? It was muddy and wet. That was the condition. And I think it probably is close to a 3. If I'm being honest, it's probably a 2. But I don't really want to reset the rating. I'm going to do the 3. And then how many people were out on the trail, midweek? It was just us. And then select next. And then you can go in, and this is where you can start adding the photos, hopefully photos of the trail. If there are kind of cool rec points that you want to pull in, like shots of a lake or whatever, that's just fine. But here's where this is really powerful. If I come across, especially with changing in weather patterns, come across a downed tree, a washout, or somewhere where a trail is overgrown, a photo and a description right here is going to really help us understand, and the community to understand like what the actual condition is, quote unquote, I'm using air quotes here, in real time. So that way, when I go out and I see, if I'm planning a trip and I go to the trail report and I see maybe I'm going to go back here and maybe it was obstructed, I can see that here and know what the obstruction is, where that obstruction was. So that way I can be informed and know what to do with that trip. And then you fly through the prompts and then you hit submit. I'm not going to submit because I did not actually go out and run this trail. And I really want to encourage you guys, do not just go out and just randomly add trail reports if you have not actually been out there on the trail. Go run the trail. Please submit a trail report, and then we will be good to go. Moving right along. So I know I've covered some ground here. I'm going to zoom into this little area where I planned a trip recently, actually last spring, where we had a little picnic, and cell service gets a little spotty up here. So what I'm going to do, especially because like I don't know when I'm going to be in or out of cell range, I am always going to plan my trip with an offline map preloaded. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to this toolbar once again on the left-hand side. If you're on the web browser, if you're on the mobile device, it's on the bottom. It's on the bottom second tab in from the left. You click offline map, and then you're just going to simply select new offline map. So that big orange button, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, this is going to give you 3 different options of satellite imagery, basically the resolution detail. And you can go from kind of small, medium, or high. For me, generally speaking, medium is just fine. It's going to give me all of the detail I need, and it's going to preserve a wide enough area for me to be able to like be anywhere within that region and still have my offline map saved. And so I'm going to squarely put this right here because I want to make sure my picnic area is going to be that little waypoint you see down at the bottom of the corner. That's where the family is going to have a picnic. I'm going to hit save. Actually, I'm just going to say family outing. So I'm going to call this family outing. So you can have the map name easily identifiable, and then hit save, and then boom, there you go. Now, my offline map was created. This was super fast because I am plugged in directly to my Wi-Fi. If you're doing this on your mobile device, a couple things to know. Number one, actually, let me back up. If you're making the offline map on desktop, this will be saved automatically to your mobile device. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to resync. You don't have to refresh. It's just going to be there. I'll show you how to access that in a second. But a couple things to note is this green box that you see. It's kind of a silly thing that I do, but green means good to go. Green means that map tile has been fully downloaded. So anywhere within this region, I am going to have access to my offline map, no problems. So I'm going to be able to zoom in and be able to get all of the detail I need, the little notches, make sure that I'm staying along the ridge and I get to Lost Lake just fine, and I will have no issues. However, if you are on a mobile device and you're doing this and you're trying to save an offline map either out in the field or somewhere where you're not by strong internet, you're going to want to make sure to keep an eye on that box, because if it is not fully downloaded, it is going to show red and white, which basically means like a candy cane pattern, which is basically telling you it's in process of downloading. but it has not fully downloaded. So make sure green is good to go. If you see that green box, you're ready to rip and roll. Now, I'm going to come over here to my content and pull this up. So this is where you're going to be able to go in and we're going to get into a little bit more detail on this one while when Dana shares like kind of her trip planning. But I want to make sure that we save plenty of time for that. So I'm going to fly through this for just 1 second. But this is the my content area. So on the left-hand side, you can see where it is. If you're on the mobile, it's right in the center of that navigation bar down below. And you can simply select add a folder. So you can create a folder where you start putting in different content. Or if you've saved waypoints, if you've saved routes, if you've saved tracks, all of that's going to be saved in your My Content. So that way you can access it later and you can organize it however which way you want to, whether it's you want to hide everything, whether you want to take a folder, let's see, take Mike's folder, open it up, and then show everything within that folder. It's all super well organized. It's a tool to help keep you super well organized. I'm going to take one sip of water because I've been just talking, and I feel like I'm losing my voice. So Dana, anything to quickly add while I take one quick sip of water?
Andy, I think you covered a lot of our big features pretty well.
Okay.
We drink up and yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna do a couple more things, and I'm gonna hand it over officially to Dana to go through trip planning. But um, for some of our one of my favorite tools is now coming over to the right hand side, and there's gonna be now one over from the My Content tab. If you're in mobile, is going to be tools. Tap that, open that up, and you're basically going to see what you see right here, which is building a route, drawing a line. Drawing a line is fine, but basically think of the line tool as distance as the crow flies. So if you're trying to really understand like directionally, like how far away something is, the line tool is good for that. I personally like never use the line tool, so take that with a grain of salt. The shape tool is nice because if you're out camping with a crew and you want to plot some land and be able to understand like kind of how big an area is, the shape tool is really nice for that. And then adding a waypoint. And I'm just going to show you really quickly. Let's just build a route real quick. So I'm going to come here to Bumblebee Campground, and I'm going to work my way up to this junction. Because we're already 30 minutes in, so I want to make sure you guys are getting all the information, but I don't want to spend too much time. But so let's go. Bumblebee, you can see that I just dropped something right there on the map. It's a green little dot there. I'm going to change my color over here to blue. Actually, I'm going to do red so that way you can see. But the route builder tool is a tool that we built in-house. And basically what it's doing is it's mapping and snapping to the trail super fast. So it's basically one trying to decide if there's a network of trails. It's trying to decide the fastest route from point A to point B. So if you want a more scenic route, you might want to play around and manipulate it just a little bit. But you can see that was just one simple drag, and I have now from start to the fork, the first part of my route. I'm going to go up here a ways, and I'm going to go to Maggie Ranger's cabin, and that's where I'm going to stop. Okay, so that's my route. I'm going to just call this Bumblebee to Maggie's. Cool. Now you're going to see the total distance, which is really important to know. Elevation gain and loss. I don't know if that really matters, but you got that information. Depending on how you want to view your route, you can style it with either a solid line, dashed line, dotted line. And then I personally like the weight of the lines to be super thick, especially because like I don't have an in-dash unit, so I'm just following the route on my phone. So I like that to be thick, and I typically don't like it to be dashed. So I'm going to keep it solid. You can make notes. So this is my note for my route. And then I'm going to add it to Mike, check this out. I'm going to add it to that folder. So in case you didn't see that, I'm going to do that one more time. You can see add a plus right here to the folders. Click on that, and it's going to pull up a folder I've added to Mike, check this out. And now I'm going to save. Boom. And now I have my route from Bumblebee to Maggie's right there. And again, if you're curious, that lives now going back to my content in both the Mike check this out folder, because this is where it's housed, and then also under my routes. And you can see, cool, it's right there. Now let's go back here to my route. I want to quickly pull this up. I'm just going to go back to the Mike check this out folder, click on my route, it pops up. One thing I forgot to do is when we are at Maggie's cabin, kind of lookout area, I'm going to want to add a waypoint. So I'm going to go to this toolbar again. I'm going to select add a waypoint. And I cannot confirm, but I heard that Sasquatch is up there. So this is going to be an opportunity for us to explore the area. I mean, who knows? Like if it's not on photo, if it's not on photo or video, doesn't count. But I think Sasquatch is up there. I'm gonna mark that brown because I think Sasquatch is brown last time I checked, but he's also pretty old, so he could be gray. Maybe white's better. I'm gonna keep it white. I like that. And then I'm gonna save that. Let's go. I'm gonna name this waypoint. Where is that Sasquatch? Save, and boom, we're ready to roll. The adventure kicks off. And so you can share this route, you can share the plans with a buddy. I'm going to let Dana get into that in just a little bit with the trip planning. But that's how you build a route. That's how you add waypoints. It's super intuitive. I know a lot of mapping software at times can be overwhelming. We are working really, really hard to try to build and deliver a very intuitive product. So play around with it. If you have questions, I think really the best way to learn is just to get in there and continue to play with it. A couple things that I'm just going to cover real quickly before I hand it off to Dana is down here at the corner, the right-hand corner, and similar in mobile, it's going to be the right-hand corner. You're going to see the little map icon. And depending on what map style you're on, you're going to see satellite imagery, hybrid, or topo. And this is just the standard kind of view of mapping. So you're going to have the satellite view. One thing that I constantly play around with, which I'm not going to do really today because it's a nightmare show virtually, but I play around a ton with our 3D maps because there's just so much to see. And I'm going to exaggerate this a little bit and hopefully it does not break. But this really gives you a sense of like especially where I'm at, nothing is flat. And so it's really, really helpful and important to know what am I looking at and where in context, depending on what type of trip I'm trying to do, is going to be the best suited for me and my family and the adventure that we're trying to get after. So I'm gonna go back here because I lost my route. I'm gonna go back here. All right, let's turn on 3D and see what we are dealing with. So yeah, we're basically running a trail that's kind of tucked among these little mountains and ridge lines. So that's fun. Another thing to look at is recent imagery. So what this is going to do is we're pulling in information that from satellite every 2 weeks or so, and the resolution of the satellite data pull is not going to be super crisp, primarily because we are trying to refresh that data at a high enough frequency to have some meaningful information there on the screen. So as you can see, when I toggled recent imagery on, you're starting to see the terrain change just a little bit. And if I zoom, if I go back in time, okay, heavier snowfall, snows. I mean, we've just had a light winter. This is just showing like how light of a winter we've had. We had a decent dump, back in end of November, early December. But you can just begin to understand like where the snow line is, and then as the transition of seasons happen, where the snow line starts to rise, the water levels start to rise. So it's a really important tool just to be able to make sure you're understanding like what kind of situation you're getting into in the terrain that's out there. So with that, I have covered a lot. I've talked a lot. And now you probably want to know, okay, what do I do with all of this information? I'm going to pass it over to Dana to basically walk you through how to plan and do that trip. So we will. And how did you get to the bottom? The date on the bottom of the screen, that's going to be so if you have, I'll just stop here real quick, Dana. Sorry. So there's a couple things that I meant to acknowledge here is recent imagery down here. That's where you're going to see that if I toggle that off, the date range or date selector is going to disappear. If I toggle that on, it's going to show back up. Similar, if I zoom in here to my area, I'm going to start to see these red squares that I talked about earlier. You're going to start to see these pop up. Now, these are the private land boundaries. We have two membership levels, and the membership levels are premium, which is going to give you access to 90% of this information that you've seen. That premium membership starts at $35 billed annually. So it's a great deal. You have access to the majority of the tools. However, the private land data, so if I get out of my content, go to the filters right here, the private land data, if you have premium, the $35 a year subscription, that's what you're going to see. Is you're going to still see the map, you're going to still see the trails, but you will not see the private land boundaries. And this toggle will be locked. Same with if you go to the recent imagery, this will be locked. And now I toggle it out of that. I don't have the date range here, and I don't see the overlay of the snow. The private land in recent imagery is gated behind our elite membership, which is $100 a year. One thing to also know is we are rolling out trails into Canada and Mexico. And then we also have elite pro deals. So if you're interested in modifying your rig, you've got some build to do before you get out into the trails this summer, it might be worth looking into an elite membership for $100 a year. And then maybe the purchase of a Warren winch when you get to potentially save 15 or 20% off of that purchase. You will be able to basically pay for that elite membership with that single purchase of a winch. So two memberships, premium, $35 a year, elite, $100 a year. And that's sort of the breakdown in what you get. Now, enough of me. Let's get into some fun trip planning. I am going to stop sharing and hand it over to you, Dana.
All right. Thank you, Andy. So many cool things to see. Hey, so I love that we ended on base maps. While I'm getting my screen up, can you guys drop in the chat your favorite or your preferred base map? As a map maker, I'm always curious and I love to learn about that. So drop it in. Okay, well, I'm gonna make this really quick. I'm gonna do like one trip planning thing so we can just kind of use some of the things that Andy just described to us. So I'm at the beginning stages of planning a trip to Death Valley, spring break, meeting friends from Oregon, Colorado, Arizona, Montana. We're all descending on Death Valley. Most of my friends have never been there before. We got families, a variety of cars. So I figured, hey, okay, before I begin looking at everything, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a new folder called Spring Break 2024. So I'm ready to go. Um, so I've been there a few times. I've been to the usual haunts. I thought I'll start, Furnace Creek. We'll maybe try to grab a campsite there, base camp, see some of the stuff near there. So maybe Texas Springs will have a opening. Definitely have crashed in their overflow camping before. So I'm going to make a waypoint here. Um, don't have my campground one as recently used, so we're gonna just search them all. I like to use the search bar. So camp, we'll make everything brown. Gonna remember to say, hey, camping night 1. Save here. And then oh, forgot to add it to the folder. So we're gonna let's see. So I don't know if you guys, I'm going to do that again, follow Andy's lead. So there's a few options here, but there's always more. So if you click the more option, I can now add it to my folder that I just created. Let's see, just that one. Let's drop it in there. Boom. Okay. So we got our base camp for night 1. Oh, and I forgot to say my preferred one. I got right into it. So I like topo up high, and then when I start getting into the details, I like to switch it over to hybrid so I can kind of see what the terrain's like, but still see the contour lines so you get an idea. And then eventually I'll probably, like Andy, throw it into 3D and start getting an idea of like where some of these places are. Okay, um, so if I'm not that familiar with the area, probably go to the Discover tab, kind of see some of the options. In web, it's pretty cool. If I'll scroll out a little bit, if you hover over it, kind of highlights those trails where they are. So maybe I'll look into Echo Canyon. Is that going to be fun for our group? I actually already have this one saved, but if I wasn't saved already, I just bookmark it here, and I'll show you where to find that in a second. Yeah, that looks nice and simple, probably good for our big crew. Looks like a lot of fun, some cool rock. If some of us are getting braver, maybe we cruise on this guy. Okay. But back to Echo Canyon Road. So let's say, okay, I saved that. Now I'm back in Montana and like, what was that trail I saved again? Can't remember. So if you go to my content, there's actually a couple different tabs here and you can go to saves and I can see that save trail in there and refresh my memory. Okay, so I'm gonna fast forward through some of this trip planning and just say, hey, we made it down south. Maybe we go down to Tacopa. Shout out to anyone that's around Tacopa. Maybe go get a beer at the brewery. It's been a long time since I've been there. And then maybe we want to camp nearby that night. So I really like using aerial imagery and just kind of following some of the dirt roads. One thing I probably should do too is, I'm driving, we're in the family jammer, so probably just high clearance, full width roads for us. Can't fit on anything else. So get rid of anything that we can't fit on the map here. And yeah, so I just start zooming in. There's a lot of wilderness around this area. So make sure that we're aware of that. And let's see, Old Spanish Trail, maybe out of the wilderness area. There's some cool camping around there. So I just start zooming in, maybe see where there might be pullouts, or like This is totally live. I don't have a plan here, so this is what I would do. Usually I sit in bed at night and just kind of browse and look for like little offshoots and where we might be able to find a good little spot to base camp and then go explore from. Hey Andy, how are we doing on time? Are we wrapping up here?
Yeah, almost time to wrap up.
Okay. Yeah, so that's kind of my typical way. I just make some plans. I usually add a lot more waypoints and tracks, but kind of wanted to go through a few things with you guys, show you how my brain works when I go through and use a lot of these features. So I'll wrap it up right there and figure out, there we go.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, now for the moment you've all been waiting for, and I see. Let's just make sure that you got that on screen. Okay, cool. So the moment you've been waiting for. So we have, and I don't know if you can see this because I got the stupid blur on. But it's a trash bag. It's a rad trash bag. I've got shoes in here. I've got beanies. I've got trash. We're giving away 5 trash rats trash bags, and I am constantly using this. So please go to the giveaway link. We just put it in the chat. No purchases necessary, but an account is required. A basic or free account is just fine, but do not be surprised if you get into that basic account and realize you have nothing, because we have a lot of great stuff behind that premium paywall. So check your emails tomorrow to see if you've been selected. And then with that, if you guys are ever bored and you've got some time on your hands you want to kill, get in there to Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Snap, whatever, and go find us, onX Offroad. We've got a lot of helpful extra content out there, whether it's how-tos. We've got some great build challenge content. We're just trying to have some fun and help you guys go farther in your adventures. So until next time, thank you, and we will see you out on the trails. Take care.